So yes, I'm Cassidy. I'm a 2015 grad, and hopefully Banyan will jump on in a few minutes. So just to kind of give you a background, he's kind of the mastermind behind this What's Up Warriors virtual event that we've been doing. So this is our third one, I believe, that we've done. And it's really just an opportunity for our alumni to kind of share about their work and the career that they have. And hopefully some of our younger alumni and then even some of our current students this time, they can kind of hear from our alumni and hopefully it can kind of help them gear them into a path or a career that they want to pursue. And perfect timing, Banyan just jumps in. But we're really excited to have you guys join us today. And I hope that this conversation will be really insightful for you all. And yeah, we can just do a short introduction for our three guests that we have today. Thank you so much for joining us. So if you guys want to just introduce yourselves and then give a little background of what you're doing and what you're working on right now, that would be awesome. And maybe we'll start with Bryson first, because I know he was the first one here to join us today. So.
Well, hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. This is a really cool thing, so I'm excited to be here and I'm grateful to be a part of it. I am a 2006 graduate, so I just had my 15-year reunion, which is crazy to think about. And I've been working in filmmaking in the film industry, so kind of doing documentary and narrative films. And I'm currently a screenwriter and working on actually a video game right now. So maybe we can talk a little bit about that later, but I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. That sounds actually very exciting. Video games. I've always wanted to meet someone who was working on video games and making video games. So cool. And then what about Leah? What if you go next?
Kind of echoing what Bryson just said. Hi, everyone. Super grateful to be here and blessed to be able to speak to everyone and also hear what some of my fellow alumni are doing. I graduated in 2011, so just had my 10-year reunion. I am currently located in Michigan, so I didn't make it home for that, but I got to see some pictures of everyone having fun. But I left Oahu for college back in 2011. I went to Michigan State University, studied journalism. And from there, I've kind of been all over the country. I've even worked abroad. I worked in Israel covering 2014 Gaza war. And then I worked in Arizona and Wyoming covering sports from the youth level all the way up to professional. Also did sports in Texas and then also transitioned to news. And I have been doing news for about 3 years now, working in Texas. And then I just finished up my most recent contract with the NBC Fox affiliate in Flint, Michigan. So you may have heard of Flint before with the Flint water crisis. So I have a little bit of knowledge on that. And of course, everything that's been happening in the world in the last 2 years. It's been a crazy last 2 years. And then right now I'm in search of my next opportunity. And I'm not quite sure where in the world that will take me, but I'm very excited to see what happens next.
Super cool. That sounds so exciting. Thank you. And then lastly, we have Kiana with us today.
Yay. Hi, everyone. I'm Kiana. Thank you guys for reaching out to me and having me join this. So I'm super excited about that. A little bit about me. I graduated from Kamehameha in 2014. And right after that, I went to Loyola Marymount University in LA. And I graduated with broadcast journalism and I minored in business. And then after that, I went to go work at ABC7. I was at the assignment desk for a little bit. I also did entertainment news as an intern. I interned there and then I got a job there afterwards. I also tried to balance, I thought we can talk about this after, but I thought I wanted to be a sports reporter. So I did work at FS1 as a production assistant and I worked on The Herd and the show Undisputed. So that was a lot of fun. And then in 2019, I decided to move home and compete for Miss Hawaii USA. And then COVID happened. So then now I'm at home. So I currently work for the Honolulu Star Advertiser and I'm their new digital news host. They kind of created this position because of COVID and working at home. So I'm kind of living the best of both worlds. And now that we've opened up a little bit more, things are changing and forever evolving. So I'm excited to see what's next and what's going to happen in the years to come. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think today's conversation is going to be great just from the introductions that you guys did. But actually, I'll let Banyan introduce himself too, since he jumped on. And if you want to add anything else about what our discussion is going to be like today, Banyan.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Bryson. Thank you, Leah. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you in so long. Good to see you, Kiana. Same. I haven't seen you in a really long time either. What You Up To Alumni was created last year while we were just kind of in the thick of COVID as a way for our young alumni from Kamehameha schools to really understand what is out there, what opportunities are out there. And we saw that there was a gap that needed to be bridged by young alumni with current students, and also with young alumni in people who, or with people who are in their specific professional field. So this was born. We started off talking about the creative design world with Matthew Deneve and Drew Honda, and then led into nonprofit organizations with Cassidy. Cassidy became my co-host throughout the second go around. So I'm really excited to have you again, Cassidy. You are amazing and have helped me throughout this entire process. So it's a really simple format here for anybody who is really unfamiliar with the way that we do this talk. Basically, what we do is we have questions prepared for all of our panelists. If you do ever want to kind of give us a little bit more insight into your career path or to your specific industry, by all means. This is really lax. We want to make sure that everybody here is really comfortable with also asking questions should they have any. Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can go ahead and just add them in the chat. We'll get to them as they come up. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're all Kamehameha graduates here. So the one thing that has, I guess, the one question that has always come up in these discussions is really, did anything at Kamehameha really stick out for you to really kind of start planning ahead when it came to your specific career path? Was there something that you did throughout your time at Kamehameha, such as Kamo'i? Were you doing Pukamai what kind of resources were you tapping into to gain that knowledge or gain that experience to get to where you're at now? So maybe Kiana, do you want to start us off with any kind of resources that you might have tapped into while you were at the school?
Yes. So my time at Kamehameha was totally the whole college prep, and I used that to an advantage. And I think my college counselor at the time, Mr. O, was very helpful. And I utilized the counselors and the faculty and staff to help get me to where I am today, whether that was, well, I was on the speech and debate team for one. So that was really great because it helped me with my public speaking. I was a public speaking captain. I did oratory. I also tried other different things within the speech and debate team. But besides that, I did take video production with Kumulia, and that helped me with my video editing skills, which I still use today. And I was on Pukamai Uau Hawaii. And then just doing all the extra stuff with song contests. I auditioned or applied to be a song contest speaker. So that was something that I've always strived for throughout my Kamehameha career. And I think that started along when I got in middle school. I got in at 7th grade. And so whether it was chanting at an assembly, I've always, somehow got asked or I volunteered. And I think if you decide what you want to do and know where you want to be after you graduate, whether if it's going to a school to pursue the career you're, trying to go in, then you have the right people and to utilize those teachers and put yourself in those programs and take those classes to get to where you want to be. So by me joining all of those classes, I got to write it in my college apps and then from there move forward. So yeah, I think that answered it. It was kind of a lot, but
that's great. I feel like I just looked at your entire resume. Leah, what about you? What resources did you tap into while you were at the school?
I guess kind of like Kiana, you just mentioned, if you kind of know what you want to do, you're able to tap into those resources. And so I've known I've wanted to do news, whether that be in a sports capacity or in a news capacity since 5th grade. I started at Kamehameha in fourth grade. And so, I mean, I think we all know Kamehameha really prepares us for public speaking, even if that's not what you want to do. And so, of course, that started in elementary, and then all the public speaking classes, seventh grade, freshman year, then, again, when you got into your junior, senior year. And then if I remember correctly, it was my junior year, Mr. Ernst had started another public speaking course, and he worked it in with Kumulia and video production so that those kids could do more with Pukamai Kala and like learning kind of everything that goes on in a newsroom. So I was like, heard about this class, I was like, I have to do it. I have to get into it. So I did that too. And then I did Pukamai Kala. So all of those things kind of really prepared me, but I knew this is what I wanted to do. So I was able to take advantage of the resources. I think looking back, a lot of times people don't know what you want to do when you grow up. Most people still go to college and they have no idea what they want to do. Kind of like I use college to explore. Same thing at Kamehameha. You have so many resources right at your fingertips. Like try out a bunch of different things. You might not think you like public speaking, and maybe the public speaking classes that we're forced to take isn't really what you like to do, but go try video production, go try Pukamai Kala or whatever it's called now. I know it's changed names a few times over the courses of many years, but try it out, because that's the only way you're going to know if you have an interest in something, and then you can dive more into it and see if that's really what you want to continue doing.
Absolutely. I'm just always amazed about just the number of resources that are at our fingertips, as you mentioned. And you don't realize how many resources you have until you're actually gone. So it's always good to just always talk to, our current students at the school to just remind them that, it's something, if you're very interested in, take advantage of it while you're there. It's so important. Bryson, you actually, so you have a very interesting background because you don't necessarily fall into broadcast journalism, but you are a screenwriter. So I'm happy that you're actually a part of this talk, because you have just such an amazing background. And when I was taking a look at all the things you've done, I mean, you're a filmmaker, you're a Sundance Native Lab Fellow. You are also a screenwriting intensive fellow, I think, right, with imagineNATIVE. And then you're also an Ohana Greenlight recipient. So I know that broadcast journalism goes hand in hand in terms of the digital aspect or learning, the video production side of things. So tell us a little bit about your path.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I didn't do like Pukamai Kala. I wasn't in front of the camera, but writing was something that I was really interested in, even in high school. So I did Kamo'i. I think it was like the first years with Mr. Barona, who I think is still there. So it was kind of a scrappy paper back then. Like we were kind of making things up as we went along. And that was really my start in trying to get into journalism. I think I wanted to be a journalist for a while, and I never quite got there. But that was definitely a start. And then after going to college and everything, like kind of my journey into filmmaking was through documentary film, which in a lot of ways is very similar to journalism or, broadcast productions. And I think Kamehameha really prepared me for that, in the sense that on top of being really an academic, rigorous academic program, you also got the chance to explore so many creative things. And that was really, nobody discouraged you from doing that. It was like encouraged to get good grades, which I did sometimes. And then but also do all these other things. So I was really fortunate to be in Kamo'i, and I did band. So I was doing like music things, and I did a little bit of theater, which kind of helped me to get out of my shell. Like I got in fourth grade also. And I know at that time you didn't have to do like an interview to get in. And I think that's the only reason I got in. I wasn't a very good speaker. I was a really shy kid. And I think Kamehameha really, like Leah said, it trains you to kind of break out of your shell and be able to speak or do a panel like this. So I think all job skills that'll help you in the future, no matter what you pursue. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, I totally agree. And I think that's why we're so thankful to those resources, especially the public speaking aspect behind, it's pretty much like, it feels like every single classroom project that you work on, you have to do like a speech or something. And it's just ingrained in you as you go along, all the way up until you graduate. But that's awesome. It seems like you really did take advantage of, theater arts, I mean, is huge in terms of public speaking, and it really does prepare people to really feel comfortable in their own skin while, stepping into an uncomfortable territory. And that's just kind of what I was going to get into next. With Kiana specifically, I mean, your job is so fascinating to me because you are a digital news host. And that's something that I think shifts with broadcast journalism or journalism as a whole. As you said, this job was created during COVID, and we've seen the way that we've digested news, whether that be through the TV, whether that be through digital print publications, magazines, or our daily newspaper. But this is very, very new. So can you tell us a little bit about what your role kind of entails?
Yes, sorry about that. I don't know what happened. I totally got X out of the chat and then I had to rejoin. But anyway, yes, this whole job role that I got last year was super, not random, but it was actually pretty cool because I initially applied to start Advertiser as a production assistant because I saw that they were hiring. So when I went in, I applied to be a production assistant and kind of be a writer/editor. That was kind of the job role of what I initially went in for. And then when they looked at my resume and seen, what I've done in the past, and I did create a reel, which is something that I've done, throughout college and at my internships, then they kind of asked me like, what do you think we should do to basically merge or expand our digital social media platforms? And I kind of gave them the idea of like, a lot of news outlets like Hawaii News Now or KHON or even news stations on the mainland, a lot of people are on Instagram posting these news updates or doing little clips of stories that are happening in their community. And so when I gave them the idea and pitched it to them, they're like, hey, we should totally do this. And what if we, put you on board and see where this takes off? And it's kind of a work in progress. So I'm also learning at the same time, but it's been great because I get to work with the writers. I still get to kind of produce my own show. I get to schedule the interviews, who I want to interview, what the interview entails. And I think it's amazing because a lot of people, like you said, especially our age and millennials, we get our news from social media, but from credited platforms and credible news stations and information. So it's fun. It's a lot of fun, and it's something totally new because I want to be like Leah. Like I want to be, on TV, and that was my dream. But I had to find a different way to put myself on there and to make myself credible enough. So if I were to leave Star Advertiser, then I could apply to other news station and be like, hey, this is what I've done with the Star Advertiser. What can I do for you guys? Either, learn weather and traffic or even be at a news anchor desk. So the opportunities are endless. And I think I'm learning more myself now. And hopefully down the line, I could be on TV. But so it's cool.
That's awesome. So Leah, your background definitely revolves more in the traditional broadcast journalism sense. So you are in front of the camera, but there's so much more to being a news reporter. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people who go into this profession don't understand. I'm a journalism major myself. I graduated with a BA from Humboldt State University with journalism. But as soon as I touched base in news editorial, in broadcast, in radio broadcast, I was like, no, I can't do the behind the scenes work. So I decided to emphasize in public relations, which we can get into later. But there's so much work that goes into being what you do every single day. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Sure. I also kind of want to go back to what Kiana was saying. Like, I think a big thing for anyone who's really interested in doing this, like there's no one path. I think that's like the biggest thing I can like emphasize for anybody is don't like look at how one person did it and be like, that's exactly how I have to do it, because everyone has their own way. And I think you're going to really pigeonhole yourself if you're like, I have to do it one way. So like, Kiana, what you're doing is like awesome. You're finding your ways to, you know, really put yourself out there and differentiate yourself from, you know, other people who are trying to do the same thing. So that's what I would tell everyone, was like, find your own way to do it, because there isn't one way to just do everything. But I guess going back to your question, Banning, is there is a lot that goes into it. I think the most common question I get from people, of course, is, do you have to do your own makeup and hair? Don't you just like show up and you just go on TV? And I'm like, no, like there are days where I have to lug 40 to 60 pounds of camera equipment myself. Like the news industry is changing. So my first job, like first TV job out of college, it was a small town in Texas. You didn't get a camera person. You were all by yourself. You're a one-man band. So you have to know how to do everything. You have to be able to carry your camera equipment. You have to know how to shoot all of your own stories. And that's kind of like what you do, Bryson. You have to be able, you know, like when you're trying to tell a story, right? You have to be able to visually show that. So you can't just be a good talker. You have to also know how to shoot a story, find cool camera angles. You have to be able to find those interviews, shoot those interviews, ask those questions, and then bring it all back to your station and edit it and put it together. And it has to look cohesive and it has to look good for TV. And that's when you finally get to be in front of the camera and do your thing. But you've probably been working for 9 to 10 hours prior to that. And then of course, as you work your way up, you hopefully get a little more resources. Like I said earlier, I just finished my contract here in Flint, Michigan. And there I almost always had a camera person. We call him a photog. I'm a photographer. So I almost always had somebody with me to help me shoot things. But sometimes there's a lot going on in news and they have to send all 20 people in the newsroom to different stories. So you still have to make sure you know how to do everything by yourself. And then, you know, adding to what Kiana was saying earlier is like social media. That is a huge part of this job now and all of your digital platforms. So it's not just putting out the TV product. It's also updating your Twitter, updating your Facebook, posting your stories there. Sometimes you do a different angle of the story for social media. Sometimes you post a completely different type of video on Facebook than you do on Twitter. And then you also post something different on Instagram. So you're constantly updating everything and trying to reach viewers in all different capacities, because it's not just TV anymore. I don't know if that answers your question, Banning.
I am exhausted just hearing that. So I give you a lot of credit.
It is.
I give you a lot of credit.
You have to love it.
Yeah, when I was in college and I was diving deep into my core curriculum, I quickly was like, am I doing the right thing? Is this what I really want? But I'm glad that I stuck with PR, because I still work with journalists to this day, including news anchors every single day. And it's just awesome to see what they do. And I give you all lots and lots of credit.
We rely on you too. Like,
there you go.
Two-way street.
Two-way street. Yep. That mutual connection, that network that you got to build too. It's fascinating stuff. And you know, in our profession, you know, both in the PR side and in journalism, you're always looking for stories. So Bryson, I think that because you are a storyteller, what really inspires you to find stories and write about them? Is it just, you know, does it come within, or are you inspired by something that you see in your day to day? What really draws, you know, what brings the pen to the paper for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't always know. I think you have to kind of constantly keep working on things to figure it out. I think I try to write every day, which is like, it's a little easier during the pandemic. I think you're home a lot. And I have a couple of young kids, so sometimes it's nice to get away from them for a minute. If I hear them crying, I can just come in the room and write a little bit. But yeah, I think a big part of it is being inspired by this place. And I think, you know, for a lot of people, I know I started out kind of trying to do that thing where you write what you think people want to see, or you try to chase something. And I think what you learn over time is the more personal your stories are, weirdly, the more broad they are, the more they appeal to people. And I think, it's like everything that I've worked on in the past, especially like couple of years, has been more personal. So like now that I am like a dad, for example, like I write more about families, and I write more about, being a father. And it's, like things that are personal to you, and you constantly have to chase, whatever is kind of making you feel inspired. And I think a big part of it too, which is interesting to hear Kiana talk about, how the pandemic has changed things as well, and, trying to create your own opportunities. This is weirdly an opportune time for people in Hawaii to try to make it in industry. And, so many of us, I think, we graduate from Kamehameha and we think, oh, we want to get into broadcast journalism, we want to get into the film industry, and we move away because we think, okay, we have to go to Los Angeles, we have to go to New York, all of these big media hubs. But weirdly, because everything is distanced, like Hollywood is distanced now. I'm in Kaneohe, but I'm taking meetings every day in Los Angeles, and you never would have been able to do that. And I just think weirdly, while the pandemic is horrible, you have to try to find the opportunities to still get yourself out there. You have to be a self-starter. And like what Leah and Kiana are saying, you have to be able to learn as much as you can and build a strong support team to help you do it. But like now is the best time ever to kind of get your work out there. So especially if you are trying to do something creative, be a storyteller, be a filmmaker, try to do it now. Try to make content. And people are more interested in Hawaii now than ever. I mean, you see it now. There's 4 or 5 TV shows that are currently shooting here. White Lotus just left a little while ago. I mean, everyone's coming here, and there aren't enough people that are from here creating that content. So the more we can get Kamehameha students and other Hawaii, students involved in these industries, the better represented our home will be. Sorry, I got on a soapbox for a second, but I hope that answers the question. I think try to write from your heart, try to write about things that are personal to you, and weirdly, it'll appeal to people more than you think. Yeah.
And I think you bring a good point up too about representation. I think representation is extremely important, not only in your field, but in journalism as a whole. You're trying to tell stories from fascinating people from all over. Whether it's breaking news or, a long feature on somebody, representation is so important. So I'm glad that you brought that up as well. So since, again, just kind of tying everything in, we're all graduates here. So if we could take a look back at, that moment leading up to graduation, if we were to receive a word of advice from maybe ourselves now about your current profession, what would you tell yourself? And let's go ahead and let's start with you, Bryson, since you were just speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the answer that I always got when I was in high school or in college was like, oh, go out and make your own things. Like there's iPhones are great now. Get your friends together and do it. I do think that's right. But I always hated hearing that because it never felt like a good answer. And I'm sure everyone's heard that. I think what I would add on top of that is don't just try to do it in a vacuum. Find somebody who's doing what you want to do. Like this is why this was such an exciting opportunity, is find somebody doing the thing that you want to do and hit them up. I know that's like, it's like an embarrassing thing to do. And I think, especially like being Hawaiian or something, like we're respectful of that. We don't want to like, slide into someone's DMs, but I think it's a good opportunity to like shoot your shot, try to like talk to people. The most important opportunities that are going to come to you, or the most development you'll have, are because of mentorship opportunities. Somebody's going to like take you under their wing and say, oh, here's what I learned, and here's the mistakes I made. And it'll just get you that much farther. And like if someone's watching this and like I'm saying something, like find me on Instagram or whatever, like hit me up. Because I think the other side to it is, if you do make a little bit of progress, like say yes to all of these opportunities to try to help somebody else. Like, it's the only way we're all going to make it is if we create like a pipeline that says, okay, I helped you, and then you turn around and help someone else. And we're just going to like fill the industries with like, you know, all the Kanaka people, and it's going to be better. The world's going to be better for it. That's what I would say.
Beautifully said. And, you know, thank goodness for the alumni office too. I mean, Kamehameha School's alumni office for, you know, approaching me with this opportunity, because that to me was something that I was really passionate about, was making sure that future grads felt connected in some way and had that mentorship or that leadership. And in regards to a specific career field, because I remember just feeling a little lost. I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't pursue that. Now it's just kind of my side hobby. But now I'm doing something that after investigation, I really have come to fall in love with, and that really had to go through some type of mentorship through somebody, or, you know, my own self-reflection. So I'm glad that they, you know, connected with us. You know, Cassidy is on board. You all have participated to, you know, share your story. And I think that that's really important. So again, thank you all for that. And Kiana, what would you tell yourself, you know, who's about to graduate, if you were to kind of take a look back then?
Ooh, I'll tell myself so many things if I could go back to graduation. I think the first thing is, oh gosh, I think, okay, three things. It's short though. The first thing would be to not worry. Don't worry. I think as much as we worry about like where we're going to go, what college is going to be like, oh my gosh, am I going to get a job? I need to get an internship. Like, enjoy the moment and enjoy graduation, enjoy the time that you're spending with your friends, and slow down for a second, because you have the rest of your adulthood to worry about, like worrying and stuff, which is what I'm doing now. But besides that, so don't worry. Secondly, I would say be authentic. And like Danny and Bryson said, like, it's super important to have those mentors in your life and people that you can reach out to, which is so great to have, you know, this whole alumni Zoom meeting or meeting. And what I did is I utilized all of those people, like the people in my life, whether if it was my counselors, Kumulia, Mr. Ernst, anyone who wrote me letter of recommendations, like, but also staying true to yourself. I totally went on a tangent, but staying true to yourself, because you can have role models and stuff, but like what Leah was saying, it's so easy to try to follow their exact footsteps, but you know, you create your own path and it's going to happen in due time. And I think the last thing would be, if I could tell myself one more thing, it was to, oh gosh, I totally blanked out. Don't worry, be authentic. And I think the last thing would be is to just have fun. Like, remember what you want. Yeah, have fun. Remember what you want to do in life and what you're passionate about. It should be something that is exciting for you. So don't forget that spark. Like what Banning said, he totally went into trying to get into broadcast journalism and do the whole news thing. And he was like, whoa, I can't do this. And at some points when I was working at the news station, like I felt like I couldn't be a MMJ or multimedia journalist and, you know, be a one-man band. Like, it really is hard. So remember that in order to be successful at what you do, you have to love it and you have to be super passionate about it. And I think that's what will make you successful in anything. So yeah, 3 things.
What about you, Leah? What would you tell your younger self ready to graduate?
Well, I guess if I had Kiana and Bryson, I'd probably be much better off already. But to add to that, I guess more so kind of adding to the mentorship thing, I really didn't feel like I had anyone I didn't see anyone, I guess, like me doing what I wanted to do. And that was one of the things I had kept hearing growing up was, oh, you can't do that. You're not going to be able to do that. And that was kind of the motivation to do it more. But it's also made me want to more so as an adult be that mentor to others, since I didn't feel like I had that. So I'd like to be that to other people. So kind of like what Bryson said, if I've said anything or if you're interested in something that I've done, definitely reach out to me. But to also like tag on to that stuff as advice in terms of like broadcast journalism specifically, Don't pigeonhole yourself. Like, just because you want to be on camera, like, make sure you know everything else too. Like, the more well-rounded you are as knowing the editing, knowing how to use a camera, knowing social media, that's going to help you. And I mean, that goes to any career field out there. The more well-rounded of an individual you are, the better off you're going to be and the more marketable you're going to be to a future company. So be open. Just be open to new experiences. Be open to trying new things, even if it's not something you really like. Like, personally, I don't like to carry 50 pounds of camera equipment, but I know that having those skills is going to help me get to wherever I want to go, whether that's a New York or an LA or a CNN, who knows? But you need to know all of those different things. And that applies to anything. Just be open, learn as much as you can. And also ask for advice, ask for feedback. It doesn't have to be from a mentor. It could be literally from anybody. Like, you could go and do an internship and go out one day with somebody just shadowing them, and you could try something and be like, how did I do with that? And you never know, they could just give you a 1-sentence response, and the next time you go out and do something, you'll be 20 times better.
That's all such great advice. And, as mentioned, I'm glad that you are all opening up to, be a resource to the students who are, possibly watching. So thank you all for offering that as well. So it looks like we are about to hit question time with everybody, but I do have one more question that I wanted to ask everybody. You don't have to divulge too much, but we do want to continue to see you in your field. So are there any future plans or any exciting news that you could tell us, and maybe where we can find you as well? Bryson, did you want to say any fun projects you may be working on?
Yeah, okay. I'm trying to think about how to talk about things. I'm currently working on like a couple of movies, like trying to write some movies. So like, hopefully one day they'll be on Netflix or something. But the thing I'm really working on now is a game. Actually, it's super fun to do. I can't say a whole lot because you sign all these papers. But it's for like Ubisoft actually, and like, I don't know, hit me up privately. No, I'm kidding. I can't talk about it, but hit me up privately. And then it's a game for Ubisoft, and it's like gonna come out in a couple of years. Ubisoft is known for like making like Assassin's Creed and stuff like those games, and I'm super fortunate to be like kind of part of the team that's sort of developing the story for a new game, and it's really crazy and it's really cool. So that's what I'm working on. And in a couple of years, it'll all make sense. You'll know what it is.
That's amazing. So we don't want to break your non-disclosure agreement. The NDA that you signed.
Yes, sorry. I should also add, I totally forgot. I am working on a documentary right now, and I should bring it up because Kamehameha is one of our sponsors. So I totally forgot to bring it up. They're one of our biggest sponsors. We're doing a documentary right now about like the origins of the shaka, like the symbol, and kind of like how we can trace it back to like Laie and that culture and how it spread all over the place. So like that's going to be out probably next year. I think it'll be a really cool documentary that hopefully plays all over the world. So look out for that too.
That's amazing. So since we can't break your NDA for one thing, at least we know we can probably see you at the Oscars in maybe a couple of years.
Oh, that would be nice. Thank you.
We'll hope and pray for that. Kiana, are there any fun projects that you are potentially working on that you can tell us about?
Yeah. So, like I said, everything's kind of changing. So I recently was an independent contractor, which is a little bit different of what I'm doing, but now I am a full-time salary employee. So I get to have interns, hopefully. So if you guys are super interested in wanting to shadow or just even be in the Star Advertiser newsroom, let me know because I'm looking for people. And aside from that, there are a ton of different podcasts that Star Advertiser is coming out with. So I'm kind of not necessarily in charge, but searching for people who can either do video, who can edit, just random things. So if you want to either shadow, if you want to either intern when you graduate, let me know. But besides that, I'll be doing news updates Monday through Friday. So that'd be exciting.
Awesome. Thank you. Leah, what about you?
Well, I want to say congrats on getting full-time salary, Kiana. That's awesome. And Bryson, I'm very much looking forward to this documentary. I'm going to be like hounding for it on everywhere. But I guess in broadcast news, you typically do jobs by contract. So depending on your position, it's anywhere from a 2 to a 5-year contract. So I just finished up my most recent one, which was in Flint, Michigan. I have been doing a ton of interviews for a few different places all across the country. I can't exactly say where, but hopefully one of those will come through, and I'm hoping for more than one of them so I can maybe get to pick where I'd like to go next. But I am looking to make the move from reporter to anchor. So with this next opportunity, that's hopefully where I'll be. I'll be at the anchor desk, and we'll see where I end up. But I'm really excited.
That is amazing. Well, we will be, crossing our fingers and toes and praying for all of you. So again, thank you so much for being on this panel today. This is such an important project to me, and this topic specifically, is like my soft spot, because I feel you all, I see you all. I tried what you are doing and I can't do it. And I acknowledge that. But I work with, I work in public relations, which is a whole different sector of journalism. So I'm glad that we can all revel in our successes. Cassidy, did you have any questions for our panelists today?
Maybe just like a fun little side question. If anyone who is watching right now have questions too, feel free to put in the chat and we can ask everyone as well. But just kind of like a side question if people are thinking of what they want to ask, but what was like your favorite thing, memory, anything from Kamehameha while you were in high school? If anyone can think of it, you can go first, because I know there's probably like a few things you can pick from.
I can think of one. It's weird, and you sort of take it for granted while you're doing it, but I actually miss song contest a lot, and I know it's like an interesting thing because it's been so hard to do it these past few years. I thought what they did this year was, amazing. That last song contest that was virtual, it was genius. But I remember I was very lucky because I was there. I'm not sure if you were, but we were there in the time when you could kind of just go crazy at song contests, and it was a little wilder. So I remember being there like my sophomore year, and everyone sneaks food in, right? Like you had like saran wrap, like Hawaiian food, and I had like kulolo and stuff. It was crazy. Like we had a whole luau in the back row, and we actually won that year for like co-ed and overall, which at the time was a very difficult thing to do. Like the seniors used to just sweep all the time, so we didn't expect anything. And back then you could blow up balloons and streamers and stuff. I don't think they do that anymore, but we could blow it up and you ruin NBC for a second, which you shouldn't do. And it was a bad thing, but it's like the most fun you could do because you're just like so elated with all your friends and everyone's like family. So you're just going crazy together, and it's like the highest high. And that was so fun. I miss that.
I know. I wish I was there when we could do that, but it's okay. We still go crazy and still celebrate with everyone, which is fine. Leah or Kiana, did you want to go next?
Okay, I can go. There's so many things I miss about Kamehameha. I talk about it all the time, and it's something I feel like only Hawaii people do is talk about what high school they go to. And then I'm in college and be like, oh, I did this in my high school. And they're like, how do you love your high school so much? I'm like, you will never know. But anyway, I think the one thing I missed was definitely living in the dorms. As crazy as it is, I can't believe I lived in a dorm from when I was 12 years old to 18. Like that still boggles my mind, because now with people having kids, I'm like, I don't know if I could ever send my child at 12 years old. But living in the dorms was so much fun. All the activities that they planned, just from the relationships you build. I'm still really close with all of my border friends, and day students, just everything. But another thing would be akahi, the food that we had while being there. I loved making granola, peanut butter sandwiches, having friends make it for me to bring it up if I was chilling in mid-kif or whatever I was doing, and just being able to eat whenever and go back for seconds. And yeah, there's so many things, but eating and the dorms would be my top two.
I think that's like the perfect Kamehameha summary right there for any border is dorms and eating. That's it. What about you, Leah?
You know, it's hard. I'm like racking my brain right now trying to figure out what my best memory is that wasn't song contest or eating. I personally, I just like always loved the time that I got to have with my friends, whether that was, of course, at lunch or hanging out in mid-kif and being way too loud in a library, which never felt like a library. But I was an athlete. And so I think a lot of my like favorite memories was just from practice and being with my teammates. Track was a huge part of my life in high school. I would go and do practice during my free period. So I loved practice. Like I loved walking down to, the pool and the locker room afterwards and just seeing everybody and hanging out in the training room. And that's probably some of the best memories is just hanging out with people in whichever capacity, I guess, if you did theater, that was probably where you like to do your stuff. If you did band, I know we all had our own individual places. So I think for me, it was just kind of getting to hang out with my friends, especially when it came to track. That was my favorite thing about the school day.
And actually, last time that was my answer too, because I did track as well. And I said that our team, especially the 4 years of high school, we were just so close. And even now, we're still super close and we still catch up all the time. So yeah, that was a great experience. And actually, I'm going to ask Banyan too, because Banyan's answer, I mean, you can say a different one, but last time I liked your answer last time we asked it.
Yeah. So I've said this on every single panel. So everybody nails it with the song contest always. Everybody brings that up, the food. But when I went to college, I missed free printing. That was like I remember walking into my university's library, like one of my first assignments in college, I think it was like an English paper. And I had to hurry up because I was probably late or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, I have to pay for paper. It was just mind boggling to me. And then in that moment, you're like, thank you, Pauahi, for everything that you've given me, including free printing, free paper, and a laptop at all times. So that is always going to be my go-to answer is just the free printing.
I think you said it earlier, like we take for granted everything that we got while we were there. I can't even remember what it was, but it was like the creative port. Like it was like the bottom floor of mid-kif, and it was by Kamehameha and
right?
Yeah, I can't remember what the name of it was, but like you literally had access to all the art supplies you could possibly imagine. And like you left school and you're like, oh my gosh, this stuff is expensive. And they just like let us go, create away.
Yeah, mid-kif is it's like a library Disneyland. It's just something to be so thankful for when you're there. And it's seriously one of the best tools that you can utilize. Like when the librarians are trying to help you find something or trying to direct you in the right direction for research papers, like they know what they're talking about and they will get any information for you. And it's just amazing because once you're in the university system, you're just kind of like left to do it yourself and figure it out. And I think it's such a wake up call, but in the best way possible because you reflect back on those times. And like we've all said here, like we're just so thankful for what Pauahi has given to us and for the opportunity too. So it's great. It looks like we do have a question from one of our participants, Kumulia. Hi. She says that she's so proud of us all, and mahalo for giving such great advice. She wants to know if there are things that the high school could have better prepared us for in our careers. So did somebody want to tackle that question?
I think I don't want to say I wasn't well prepared, but I can say there are things that surprised me about trying to do the kind of work that we do. Is one thing is being able to confidently talk about what you're doing and being able to sell who you are as a person. Like, you have to do that in your life. I mean, job interviews and things like that, but particularly so I can just explain very briefly. Like, if you have a script and you have like an agent or whatever, your agent will just send the script all over the place. And then you kind of just take meetings with people. So it's like you'll have a meeting, and it's like, they call them general meetings. And it's the worst thing in the world because you have to confidently sell yourself and your projects and whatever. And you do them all the time. So it's like doing job interviews 5 times a week or whatever it is. It's very intense. And you have to be able to confidently talk about yourself and talk yourself up. And I find that that's something that I feel like Indigenous people struggle with, is like hyping yourself up. We're really good at hyping each other up, but it's really hard to do it for yourself. And I think being able to confidently talk about what you're doing and know that what you're doing has worth, I think it's so hard for us to do. And so I'm not saying Kamehameha didn't prepare me for that. I think it's just something surprising that you deal with all the time. And then I think the other side to it is, I think giving us space, and I think Kamehameha did do this, but it's really about giving you the space to make mistakes and to fail. And I think we're always so afraid, like, oh, if we make a mistake, then that's it. We're done forever. But you have to make a ton of mistakes before you're actually good. And I think, like, somebody mentioned podcasts and stuff. And like, if you love podcasts and you know Ira Glass at NPR, like the most famous podcaster there is, he has an amazing quote about anyone who's in creative stuff. You hate the work you're doing and you always put it down. And it's because the reason you do this work is because your taste level is so high. Like, you know, all of you in this call and everyone listening, like, you have good taste. So, you know, when you make something, you're like, oh, this sucks. But it's because what you're doing doesn't match your own very high taste. But it's about failing over and over, and you get better and better each time. And you have to fail a lot before people pay attention to the amazing things that you're doing. So that was a long-winded answer, but that's 2 things that have been helpful for me in the last couple of years, especially.
And actually, I'll just say really quick, because what I really like what Bryson said was making mistakes is natural. Like, it's going to happen to everyone. I think especially in high school too, that's something we definitely worry about, is that we don't want to make mistakes and we don't want to fail at anything. But I was talking, so like with my work, we work a lot with sponsors. That's kind of how we have our funding. So when I was talking with one of our sponsors the other day, because they're kind of looking to hire new people, and he said that it was very interesting. He said that the way he judges a person from their mistakes is what they do after. So if they make mistakes, he understands that everyone makes mistakes, but it's the way they react after, or the way they kind of come back after. And even if they make the mistake again, how are they going to bounce back and kind of put themselves back up to where they were before that? And I think that's something that I wish I could tell my younger self that when I make a mistake, it's the way you kind of bounce back. Like, don't dwell on it. Don't overthink it at all. It happened and there's nothing you can do about it. It's the way that you're going to fix it. And then also what you do afterwards, that's really going to show who you work with and even your boss, the type of person you are, especially in a work environment. So I think that's one thing perfectly said, that I think too, that high school, especially in high school, we can think about that a lot too, and the mistakes we make.
All right. So looks like we have hit our time. So I just want to thank again, Bryson, Chun, Leah, Kamanā, and Kiana Cayabyab for being on this panel today. This is actually the best panel we've had. So I'm very, very, very pleased with, all the words of encouragement and advice that you've all had to give. I really do believe that this is going to showcase the talent that comes out of our school, and really do support the young alumni who are seeking the mana'o from everybody. So thank you again for joining our panel today. Cassidy, thank you as always for being my co-host. And big mahalo always to Auntie Jackie and Auntie Dancine for this opportunity. This has just been a dream come true. So thank you all so much for joining us today, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.